Hello, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, whatever side of the world you may be from. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Buzz, and you are tuned into Relaks Radio. You have got your hosts here, DJ Kingz and Tim. We'll be talking about everything finance, everything entrepreneurship, everything money related to make sure that your pockets stay full and everything to teach you how to be a lot more financially smart. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend, tell your pets, tell everybody that needs to know. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Buzz. We are live on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and make sure to drop some comments down to let us know what it is that you'd like to hear us talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is The Buzz, and you're tuned in with DJ Kingz and Tim.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So now we are talking about the most expensive cities in the world up to now, and today at least. Now we know that there's been a ton of cities or factors that have come into determining these numbers.
I think we're facing a bit of technical difficulties there.
Yeah, I think we're back, and to basically talk about the progress or the ratings of these countries, of these cities. Things like COVID, things like exports and imports, they've definitely switched it up quite a bit, and taken a couple of expected countries off the list. But yeah, we'll just dive right into it and get into basically breaking down. We'll also maybe after the first after we start, we'll go down from the 20th to the first, but maybe after the 10th spot, we'll just start breaking down the cities as well.
Indeed.
So to start the hour off, where have we got the cities in the 20th positions, 20th ratings?
Oh, I think he's gone again. Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. In the 20th position for cities which are the most expensive around the world, we have got Libreville in Gabon.
Right. Yeah, and then we've got Lagos in Nigeria. We've got what's up next at number 18? We have,
ladies and gentlemen, technical difficulties. Yep, Lagos in Nigeria. And 18th we have London, United Kingdom. China, we have Guangzhou in China. Copenhagen. Number 16.
Yeah, we've got Copenhagen in Denmark. Now, talking about the rental prices, and when you're looking at exports and imports, these are things that come into play when basically breaking down or understanding what gauges the wealth in a country or city, right? So things like the GDP. When you're talking about the GDP, that represents the gross domestic product, and that is basically a measure of how many goods are moving in or out of a country. So in terms of economy, in terms of studying economy, econ, or understanding what determines how wealthy your country is. It's exports versus imports. So if you have done econ, you're gonna learn exports versus imports. They're gonna learn assets minus liabilities, demand and supply, so things like that, right? And apart from that, there's a ton of other factors that come into factoring. Where your country can stand, your country or your city can stand as a in terms of wealth or in terms of independence. Obviously, you want to keep your exports higher than your imports. That would be an ideal position to be in.
Yeah, exactly.
So because that's when your country is showing profit. That's when your country shows growth. But we've been talking about inflation. We've been talking about how things have kept getting expensive over the years. Now, if it was,
I think he's gone again, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on. Yep.
Am I back?
Yeah, you back with me, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay, good. There's a bit of some technical issues over there, huh?
Yeah, I'm assuming. I think there's a bit of rain here. I'm thinking it's that.
Ah, fair enough. Fair enough. Hopefully we've got no more technical difficulties for the rest of the stream. But yes,
Yeah,
you were saying about GDP and seeing profit in a country's growth. So when a country sees profit, a country is able to see more increase in their profit. That means you can see it's starting to show growth. And obviously, one thing that we need for cities is to see growth, because then the people are able to survive, and then that makes the whole country a lot better. Because with profit, that profit spreads over the whole area of the country itself, not necessarily just the city. So it shows how well the country is doing when the city is doing well, because the city, some of the cities, should I say, even, and the capitals of these countries are literally the pinnacle that most people will look to first rather than elsewhere, and it shows just how well the country is doing in itself. So yeah.
and to gauge this, I think there's a lot more factors that come into place because in terms of taxes, in terms of tariffs, your government will obviously, wherever you are, your government is always going to influence things in favor of if they were genuinely focused on the country's growth, they would concentrate on implying or they would concentrate on leveraging different tariffs or what was the word, tariffs, or let's say taxes, if it
Yeah.
is subsidiaries, incentives to businesses. These they will basically arrange around complementary ways for businesses or for exports of the country, and
Yeah.
get the best of your resources, because importing from a different country, importing things like what you can grow in your country, instead of investing in those fields or investing in crops, investing
Yeah.
in giving people jobs in your country, would
Yeah.
always, if you are smart, if you are genuinely invested in growing your country, these are what you're going to concentrate on as a government, right? So these
Indeed. Yeah.
definitely play a massive factor in it.
Yeah. You say it has a completely massive factor within it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when heads of states invest back into their countries and make sure that they can get the most out of their countries to make the country better, it as you said, these are factors which really strongly has a large effect on the country in itself, and just to see how well it's able to bear the fruits of the investment. So you put money into the country, what you are able to get out of it is, more things come together. For example, it's like looking at the stock markets, like looking into investing in crypto or investing in forex. It's like you put money in, and then once you see the growth in which what you've invested in is starting to get better and better and better, what you take out is so much more than what you put in. So it's all about investment. So you invest in your own country, you invest in the country, and then you see how much the country grows, you get more back out of it. And in turn,
Absolutely.
it makes a cycle. So everything just works in motion.
So I think we've got time. We've got about another 40 minutes or so to basically break down how long basically the how much of these factors actually come into play, and how much
Indeed,
they
yeah.
influence a country in terms of their GDP, in terms of their rating or their ranking, in terms of independence, in terms of
Yeah.
ease to work or drive in business, right? So if we are to come back into the countdown just before we head out for a couple of videos, what
Yeah.
have we got next on our countdown?
Next up on the countdown in terms of the world's most expensive cities, we do have indeed on our countdown, if you haven't already mentioned, we have Tel Aviv in Israel, we have New York City in the United States,
I
in
was
Jamina.
honestly, I was honestly expecting New York City to be somewhere up in the top five. To be
Do
honest,
you know? Do you know what? I would say the same, but then at the same time, I feel as though one thing that we do need to understand is the fact that we won't know of all of these other expensive cities because they're not constantly, we don't constantly see them on TV. Like, for example, New York City, you'll see New York City in so many different movies or series or TV films, or it's always in people's
Yeah,
mouths, you know?
yeah,
Or you always hear people talking about Beijing. The Olympics was held in Beijing. You always hear most Chinese people have come from Beijing, if not Shanghai. Um, and Shanghai is number 6 on the list, as you can see. So yeah, we hear about Zurich, we hear about Switzerland. Like some of these countries, they're not usually mentioned a lot. So we wouldn't expect to see them to be
absolutely.
huge
Yeah,
factors in terms of being one of
yeah,
the most expensive cities ever. So
yeah.
even
You
some of the names here even shocked me. I've never seen some of these names here before. So yeah,
same. I mean, in terms of selling, selling is a part of, or I'd say, this is all, selling the country in terms of visibility, in terms of, putting them in movies, in terms of recognition, involving them in conversations.
yeah,
I was just thinking, to bring in just a bit of basketball into it, New York, or you get the Brooklyn Nets, and then
of
you get
course,
the New York Knicks as well. Now, there alone, there's two basketball teams,
yeah,
and then you have them. You have rappers mentioning it. It's so much. You have,
mm,
if I'm not mistaken, Jay-Z has talking about courtside seats in watching the Knicks and Nets in
mm.
some song. I'm not sure if I remember. It's New York,
Um,
right?
it's New York. You'll most likely be talking about New York. He talks a lot about New York.
Yeah.
I'd probably
So
have to go back and listen through the files, but
yeah,
yes, I
yeah.
know he's
I
definitely
think I
mentioned
was
stuff
listening
about.
into it recently, and
Yeah,
he does. It's a lot about doing it your way. Getting it done. If you
yeah,
can make it here, you can make it anywhere. You hear these things, you hear the songs. It's all bringing recognition to it. I think
yeah,
these definitely play a factor in getting people to fall in love with the place, or get curious about the place. and
indeed.
and to add to that, that adds momentum in terms of tourism. Now, tourism definitely brings in a lot of economy, brings in a lot of money, and
Mm.
for wherever you are. So I'm thinking, if it comes to New York, if it comes to that is exactly that is solely the reason as to why I was expecting these countries to be at the top 5.
Yeah, exactly. I understand because it's yeah, as I said before, these are countries or these are cities that are mentioned so much that we would just automatically believe that they would be so much higher up the table. I mean,
Yeah,
everyone knows about Tokyo in Japan. Everyone knows about Shanghai, Singapore. Everyone knows about Hong Kong. But we only know them by name. We don't know what type of things they can produce. Everyone knows about
absolutely.
Japan being like the city that has just so many lights. It looks so futuristic, like it's just lit up even in the evening. It's never dark. So yeah. But as for the other countries on the list, like we wouldn't sit down and believe, oh, maybe a place like Geneva is more expensive than New York. New York, with all of their thousands and millions of buildings, huge buildings, the Empire State Building being one of them, and the Statue of Liberty being there too. Like, you know, so
Absolutely.
it's not places that we really speak about much, but that's what we'd expect. And
Yeah.
right now, as we can see on this list, that's not the case. So yeah.
Exactly. Now, we're basically breaking down, the most expensive cities in the world, the top
Mm.
20 most expensive cities in the world. We've gone down to 15, or 14, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yes.
if you want to hear the rest, we did mention, New York, we mentioned London, we mentioned, Copenhagen. But
Mm.
where does Shanghai stand? Where does Singapore stand? Where does Geneva, Hong Kong?
Mm.
Um, you know, did you know that even Switzerland is basically relatively more expensive than in the States? So if you want to hear where these countries are ranked, if you want to
Mm.
hear what other factors come into play when rating these countries, stay tuned right here. You've got Kins and Tim talking to you on the buzz. We're basically breaking down the most expensive cities. Stay tuned right here. Get in touch with us. You can call us up on 07852 473 473. We'll be right back after a quick break. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, there's a lot of conversation around who pays more taxes, if it is the rich or if it is the poor, right? But when you are basically going out and during a day, you go to a restaurant, you have to pay taxes there. If you buy a car, you have to pay taxes there. So why is it even a conversation that, the rich pay less taxes or the poor pay more taxes? Why is it a conversation like that?
Because it's true, the rich generally pay less tax. A rich person walks into a Tesco's or a Sainsbury's, they're not going to get a different bill than another person, right? They're still going to pay the same VAT on those goods, they're still going to pay the same thing. So that's all the same. However, the differences come in if you can pay yourself from your own company, you can structure it in a way that you pay less income tax through paying a bit of salary, paying dividends and so forth, and then also deferring income. Also, your pension payments or contributions can be different. So that increases your tax sort of gap, if you want to use it that way. Where a PAYE person just gets paid salary and bonus. And now those are the most highly taxed sources of income in the UK, definitely, in the UK. We've seen it, right? If an owner of a large public traded company does something wrong, irrelevant of what that company does or how valuable that company is, the stock generally falls into a pool of nothing, right? Because in a public company where the stock is traded openly on the stock exchange, the value of that stock is driven by supply and demand, it's driven by emotion, it's driven by news, it's driven by quite a lot of variables over and above the actual accounting or total net worth of that company. I mean, we've seen it, right? If an owner of a large public traded company does something wrong, irrelevant of what that company does or how valuable that company is, the stock generally falls into a pool of nothing, right? And the company may still have value, it may still be doing quite a good things.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no. If that makes sense.
They can't accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you say, how did I do? Well, you didn't do very well. And they get upset. And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young, well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, I'd say to me, "You had one to forget." That's it.
Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, "You had one to forget. Get over it." And that was it. So I'd dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. When it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. How much a lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. For the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you've got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account. And then we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time. And we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what is happening. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million, and they're different. Right? They range differently from everyone, but and from country to country, to be fair. Different countries have different tax laws, so different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies, and then you step up into different things.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back from the break. We are DJ Kingz and Tim, and you are tuned into Relaks Radio. You are currently listening to The Buzz, everything finance, everything entrepreneurship, everything business and technology. Everybody, make sure you keep tuned in. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. Stay tuned in. Make sure you drop some comments down below and let us know what you want us to talk about. Just before the break, we were talking about the most expensive cities in the world, and we had gotten up to New York City, the United States.
That's right. Now, to go up the ladder in terms of the most expensive cities, what other factors come into play? What, other, in terms of, we spoke about tourism. We spoke about how, your country's tax laws, your subsidies, your, incentives or tariffs. These definitely come into play. But, when you're talking about many years, there have been a lot of indexes that the economist, the chief bureaus, for example, now in New York,
Yeah.
the New York bureau chief, his name is Matthew Bishop, and he's spoken about how, at a World Economic Forum meeting, he's spoken about how there are concerns that need to be raised when you're talking about if a country actually provides for the people's the what the people need mostly, and
Yeah.
then if there are building blocks in place for individuals and communities to basically enhance and sustain well-being,
Yeah.
then you're talking about opportunity for individuals to reach their full potentials. These are all factors that you need to take into play, that take into account when you're talking about the progress, talking about development, talking about growth of a country, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of resulting table, there were about 132 countries, of which this is all robust random data, but these could be sourced. And also, when you're I mean, to be surprised, honestly, you could talk about how GDP is not destiny. Now there is an economist by the name of Nai Bevan, and he talks about how freedom is the byproduct of an economic surplus.
Yeah.
Now, I think this applies into individuals, it applies into companies, it applies into communities, or even countries, right? Where at the end of the day, we know this world basically rotates around money, and whether you like it or not, it's molded. It's basically history is written around it, and it is for sure going to be around money, not just philosophy or um let's say mental or emotional benefit for people. But
Yeah.
we'll basically break down how GDP is not destiny. We'll go into that, but to come back to the countdown, Kings, the floor is yours. What have we got next on the countdown?
So after New York City, we have got N'Djamena in Chad. Along with N'Djamena, we also have Shenzhen in China. Sorry, Seoul in South Korea at number 10. We have also got Bern in Switzerland.
Yeah, so Switzerland, I mean, beautiful country. I that's definitely one of my bucket list places. Amsterdam for sure. I definitely want to hit that hit Amsterdam, and then uh, you know basically when you're talking about Amsterdam, apart from what people Google for Amsterdam in majority is for the coffee shops, right?
Yeah.
And the place is called Red Light District. You're talking about plenty or more, people in that basically visit for just strolling around, for just cycling around, and
Yeah.
especially going to the coffee shops. Now, if you're looking at the street courtyard, that's of Benioff, right? And then you can basically learn about Amsterdam passed at Stad Sharif, and then you can explore the city's canals by foot. You can also enjoy a sunny day at Bilberg Beach. There's a ton of things to do there. Coming up to understanding where you can what the next country is. What have we got next? We did go to Bern in Switzerland. Was that?
Yes, Bern in Switzerland. After N'Djamena in Chad, Shenzhen in China, Seoul in South Korea. Yes, Bern, Switzerland.
Right. What else have we got? I think we've basically saved the last 10 for the last
Indeed.
we are at the last 10 minutes. But then just to break
Indeed.
down, the last bit. What have we actually got for the last 10? We'll actually go into the last 5 actually. We've got
Yeah.
Bern in Switzerland, then
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beijing in China. We have Geneva, also in Switzerland, Singapore in Singapore, Shanghai in China, and at number 5, Zurich in Switzerland. It looks like Switzerland have quite a few expensive cities.
That's right. That's right. I mean, Switzerland for sure. Now, if you're looking at Switzerland and what they are popular for, they're very famous for their chocolate, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the Toblerone chocolate is inspired by the mountain Toblerone, and that's in Switzerland, right?
I didn't know that, but that is a very interesting fact. I do know that now.
Yeah. And when you're talking about the mountain, at least,
Yeah.
it's located in the city of Bears, and when you're talking about where the mountain is from, you can actually see, if you Google it, you're gonna see the mountain that looks just like the mountain on the bar.
Yeah.
And it is in Switzerland. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. So I mean, Switzerland is a definitely must go place. I'm just checking what else it is popular for. So when you're looking at things to do, things to explore, there's quite a bit. So
in terms of visiting, where just Switzerland in general, are we talking Bern, or are we talking Geneva or Zurich?
I'm talking Switzerland in general. So I'm talking, now for one, it's the chocolate, right? So when we talk about the chocolate, we'll actually break it down here real quick as well. So apart from that, we've got there is the Swiss cheese. That is a can't miss. Then the watches, you've definitely heard of, how Tag, Rolex, Swiss watches, even in terms of Swiss Army knives, right? Now, these are also handy stuff. They're very popular. It's basically a benchmark. If you see their flag on a Swiss knife or something of that sort, you're gonna know that there is a standard to it. I actually watched a documentary on the Swiss Army knives, and why they're so popular, why they're so particularly recognized. So when you're talking about with their reputation of watchmakers, another thing that they're popular for is their punctuality. And when you're talking about things like the stereotypical people, where they have a lot of pride in this. Actually, I think Japan is also popular for punctuality. Apparently, they never miss a train.
So. I believe so.
You've heard that story too.
I believe so. And then at the same time, I feel as though it would make sense, because that's why their trains are always so packed. The rush hour must be so crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So to just go further into Switzerland, you've got the train rides. You've got basically the train rides are in the mountains, with the ice caps and ice tops, and it's basically magical, I'd say. And then when you're looking at skiing in the Alps, when you're looking at the Matterhorn, now that is basically the mountain, and that is basically the range of mountains, and the altitude of it is somewhere around 4,500 meters above sea level. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Now imagine this place. Now it's snowy all around the year, so it's all white. It's all you can basically ski even during summer, and it's super cool there.
I can imagine.
Exactly. And now you have Zermatt. It's beautiful. You basically have little houses all around in a low elevation, and then in the distance you can see the mountain range, and it's all snowy. It's all white. It's gorgeous. And then the natural springs and the natural lakes. They have beautiful cities, with the boats, with the it's. Oh man, I'm just going through this.
There's just a lot, isn't it? I know that if there's one thing why Switzerland is so rich is also a part of
the SPI table. Now, this is what the economist Nye Bevan has basically spoken about. But coming back into the countdown, we came down to number 5, right?
Yes.
And maybe we'll break that down in the next segment.
So yes, with Switzerland being at number 5, number 4 we have Tokyo with Japan, number 3 Beirut, Lebanon, number 2 Hong Kong, and number 1 Ashgabat in Turkmenistan.
That's
So
right.
yes,
Um,
Japan themselves, even as we know, they are very very developed in terms of all of the stuff that they have. I
I think
feel
you
as though
asked me this question. You asked me
yeah.
this question on technology, and
Yeah. I remember I put forward the question about China and Japan being so technologically
advance.
ahead. Yes, advanced. That's the word. Advanced and so far ahead of pretty much the rest of the world. Like I view Japan and I feel as though they're pretty much in 2050, whilst we're in 2021. You know, like they're so far. They're so many years ahead of us in terms of technology. They may even crack the code for so many different things in terms of technology before the rest of the world is able to catch up. So yeah.
So I'm thinking now, since we did talk about it, we can maybe talk about how Japanese technology. We can maybe do a whole segment tomorrow before we wrap the week up. Maybe we can maybe go into a couple of high tech conversations around Japan, where they've actually, even in terms of the Olympics, how they've invested ton of technology into safety and effectiveness, things like that basically. And then how they're basically innovating. They're not the loudest, they're not as loud as the states, for one,
Yeah.
but they are moving, they are moving consistently forward.
Yeah, they are indeed. They are. And that's the beauty of it. One thing I've noticed about we're talking Japan here, yeah? We're talking Japan. So one thing I've noticed about Tokyo is the people, like the workers, you see how far advanced they are in terms of technology. They are very strong within their technology. When you mentioned R&D, immediately the first thought that came to my mind was Japan, because they're always testing things to see what is better, like how are they going to be able to push the country forward. They achieve one thing and then they celebrate for a moment and then it's straight back to work, you know. So one thing I've noticed is how quickly they are capable of being able to construct. So, for example, there was a bridge that sunk. There was a bridge that sunk in Japan recently. I'm not too sure where. I will assume Tokyo, but there was a bridge that had sunk. And literally, as soon as it had sunk, it took with it max maybe 1 or 2 days for
Yeah.
them to completely reconstruct that whole bridge back to its original state. It took maximum 1 or 2 days. If we look at any other country in the world, they'll probably take them maybe 3-4 months. Like that bridge would be out of use for a very, very long time. It took Japan 1 or 2 days to be able to reconstruct that whole bridge back to its original state. So the work rate in Japan is incredibly high. The work rate in Japan is so high. They are very, very fast whenever it comes to dealing with things. That's the reason why they're so ahead. Like they think so far forward, like it's unbelievable. Kind of like Elon Musk. He thinks so far forward that no one will be able to understand where his mind is taking him, but he can see so many things that we can't. You know, that's how I feel Japan also behave. So yeah, they are very advanced in terms of technology. I feel as though they've built enough technology to be able to help them reconstruct things like a sunken bridge, you know, or a sunken
Yeah.
motorway, sunken motorway overpass. So things like that. So
They're super
yeah,
innovative in terms of solutions, and like you said, it's not just long, long investments. It's immediate and efficient, fast paced, action that they actually take, right?
yeah, indeed. I even remember there was even a city that had been attacked. I believe there was an explosion that happened in one city within, I'd say, a year or 2 years. There was a video that showed the progression of how they come back from their how the city had ended up in ruin, and then it showed the progression in which it took for them to get from the ruins back to a beautiful city, in fact even better than what it used to look. So yeah, like
You know
one
what
thing
city this was, or should we just we'll check it up? Why don't we actually just break down a couple of different countries and their technology on tomorrow's segment?
Yeah, of course, of course. That would be that would be wonderful to get breaking down into, because I'd like to know how everybody progresses in their own city. How, for example, because we know how Tokyo progressed, we know that they're able to move so far forward with technology and how it's progressed their city as a whole, or sorry, their country as a whole. So even seeing how other countries are able to push forward on, or how they integrate their technology with their lifestyles of the country itself and how it makes the country better, that would be great to get into.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, we're gonna learn about it. We can maybe share it with everyone tuned in as well, and then
Indeed.
understand how the world basically
Yeah,
benefits off this.
exactly. And that's why we have the buzz, to make sure we can inform people to know about all of this stuff, technology and
Exactly.
everything that can help make their lives better. For example, like the VR, the talk of VR and AR. We know the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality. Like virtual reality, we know is a part of games, is a part of videos. It's just there to just, make you feel that something virtual is real life. Whereas augmented reality is just literally just manipulating the way you see things in your own household. Like sitting in front of me, I could have these augmented reality goggles on and I could be scrolling through a Spotify playlist and no one would know.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. I mean, it's only a matter of time till maybe just one person's visual is shared among a ton of other people's visuals, right?
yeah,
Maybe
indeed.
then,
And yeah,
and when we come to that point, people are not really gonna want to buy TVs. They might just invest in the goggles, right? I
exactly.
mean, doesn't it make sense? Like you might be, just like you meet up with a couple of guys, you play PS4, you play COD or whatever,
Yeah,
or 2K, FIFA. You might as well just look at meeting. I mean, just connecting from the comfort of your room or your home, and then maybe just take your glasses on with you and just the controller or the joysticks, and
yeah.
you're ready to go.
Exactly, easy stuff. And more time, I'm pretty sure with the way technology is moving forward, they'll find a way to wirelessly connect the goggles or the glasses to the console itself. But
Absolutely.
other than that, I don't see any other reason why there would be any need for TVs when we have augmented reality. We could
It's
all enjoy.
crazy. It's crazy. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. In fact, there might not even be a reason for cinemas to exist neither, because we'll all have goggles. Like we could just sit there and enjoy a film from the comfort of our own home just with goggles on.
or
No
you could
television,
maybe
no nothing.
visualize yourself tuned in or watching, if it's a match or if it's, man, I honestly don't know. Like, we might be able to buy NFTs and then just tune in to, the Euros, watching the
Yeah,
Euros even play. You could be, at a box seat, having a box view at one of
yep.
these Euros matches and just, enjoying a day. It's nuts. I just can't.
Like
I,
the possibilities are endless.
yeah, my mind's just going mad
Or
on.
even better, you could take that pair of goggles and you could literally just put them on and sit here tuned into us, the buzz, whilst we're talking
Absolutely.
about all of this technology stuff and making sure that you're staying up to date with everything. Whilst you, Tim, are sat down as Yoda and I'm sat down as Thor, maybe.
Absolutely. Now, yeah, I mean, talking about sitting down and then visualizing things. We were talking about NBA, and then just to just before we wrap the segment of the day, um, I'm excited for these guys. I'm excited for the Suns,
Yeah.
and I can't wait to see where the Atlanta Bucks show will go. I've read that Bleacher Report had basically said that Giannis's knee had not had any structural damage,
Yeah.
but he's not looking at coming back for a game 5, and maybe we'll have to see where that goes. Maybe it might.
It
I'm
could be
honestly hoping the
shaky.
guy. Sorry.
It could be shaky.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking it might be a matter of like you said before, it might come to a point where they play a game 7 if the Bucks win one more, and then hopefully Antetokounmpo comes back in time to save the day.
I hope so. I really do hope so. I hope so. I can't wait to see how everything's going to turn out for tomorrow. So yeah. But
Right.
nonetheless,
Yeah. With that being said, I think we can wrap for the day. Thanks, Kingz, for tuning in. Appreciate you coming and sharing. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Indeed, yeah. As am I. As am I. I can't wait to. I can't wait to get into the new topics for tomorrow morning or afternoon.
We'll be back tomorrow on the buzz. Make sure you're tuned in from 12 to 3 p.m. Kingz will be with us from 1 to 2, talking about business tech, entrepreneurship. We might be breaking down things around technology in different countries, and also, as usual, bringing you in a small update on the NBA and what's happening over there.
Of course, because it wouldn't be the buzz without just a bit of basketball just to end it off, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks if you watched the video this far. Make sure you subscribe, like our pages, and hit the follow icons on Facebook and Instagram. The buzz is from 12 to 1 every day. Weekdays 12 to 3. This is Kingz and Tim signing out for the hour.
Indeed. And make sure, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend, because it's always better when everybody knows about how to keep their pockets full. And to stay updated about some technology, because you never know when you're going to need a pair of augmented goggles.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. Good afternoon.